Welcome to Outdrive, folks. I'm your host, Cliff Callis, and each week I'm bringing you actionable marketing insights you can apply to reach, connect with, and convert rural American consumers. Outdrive is powered by Callis, a full-service advertising agency with a focus on marketing rural America. Callis offers a wide range of integrated marketing services, including website development, search engine marketing, social media, video, and digital. We develop strategic and creative campaigns to build your brand and your business, and you can learn more about us at ecallis.com. Now join me in the front seat as we head out on the road to success. Let's go. Hey folks, welcome to Outdrive. We've got another great story to share with you today about life and work in rural America. Out here in the country, we take conservation seriously. Whether it's our farmers who manage their properties for sustainability, our hunters who meticulously nurture the land they hunt on, or the fishermen who help keep our streams and rivers clean, there's an understanding in rural America that conservation is a fundamental part of life. The Missouri Conservation Heritage Foundation is an organization that is passionate about preserving, conserving, and enhancing our state's natural resources. MCHF is dedicated to finding ways to get people outdoors so they can learn to appreciate our fish, forest, and wildlife. We are lucky in Missouri to have an abundance of all of those things. We need to make sure we have them for generations to come. One person who is working hard to make that happen is our guest today. Tricia Burkhardt is the Executive Director of the Missouri Conservation Heritage Foundation. In that role, she is leading her organization forward and overseeing a capital campaign to establish the Institute of Fisheries, Wetlands, and Aquatic Systems at the University of Missouri. I'm anxious to hear about that today. Tricia is an executive leader with more than 20 years professional experience in agriculture and conservation with supervisory, administrative, marketing, branding, international sales, and fundraising expertise. And we're honored to have her with us on the podcast today. Welcome to Outdrive, Tricia.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. I know we have a lot to talk about. You know, Missouri is an abundant state for natural resources. And I really believe that there's an understanding in rural America that conservation is really just a fundamental part of life. It's very important. And I know the work that you guys do and your foundation is a part of that. And we can get into all that here in a minute, but let's start with having you tell our audience just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Again, my name is Tricia Burkhardt. I'm the Executive Director of the Missouri Conservation Heritage Foundation. And the foundation is the support foundation of the Missouri Department of Conservation. So really that just means, we're a separate entity. We're a nonprofit entity. Really, we are there to support the work that the Department of Conservation is doing. We're able to collect donations and have it go to a specific, area. So if a donor said, I want this to go to a nature center, it will go to a nature center. If you donate directly to the Department of Conservation, it just goes in a general fund. So you can't allocate donations. And then, of course, we also work with multiple partners, conservation partners, to do things like youth fishing events and things like that. So that's a little bit about where I work, but a little bit about myself. I have an animal sciences degree and an agriculture journalism degree from the University of Missouri in Columbia. So, MIZ.
DOU. Go Tigers.
Thank you. I don't know if you're a Mizzou grad or not, but
I am a big Mizzou fan, believe me.
Good. Very excited to have my education there. And I ended up moving to Iowa pretty soon after I graduated to work for a agriculture communication firm. Morgan Myers is the name of it. And I was there doing a lot of campaigns and lots of different things from social media to advertising campaigns on a global scale. So really got to do a lot of different things in the animal health realm, specifically animal health vaccines, swine vaccines, cattle vaccines. And my family is from Missouri, so I had the chance to move back to Missouri and started working as a marketing manager at St. James Winery. If anybody's, had some wine, and Public House Brewing Company. So I was a marketing manager there for a couple of years, enjoyed it there. And then I ended up seeing this position at the Missouri Conservation Heritage Foundation, had no idea what they were or who they were. And so I ended up taking a job here, and I can talk a little bit about more of that later, but certainly been a really good career move for me.
Well, it sounds like you've got a great career for what you're doing, great background, good experience. Give us a couple of just life lesson takeaways from your experience in the ag marketing world, which is, I think, where you worked.
Yeah, certainly. I come from a farm. We raised cattle, hogs, row crops. I did it all. I loved it all. I knew I wanted to stay in the agriculture world. And as an agriculturalist, you are also a conservationist. I'll make that tie later. But, you grow to appreciate where you're from and how you grew up and the hard work ethic that you learn from being raised on a farm. And so I took that with me, obviously, to my first career path. And in the marketing world, when I was in college, I really wanted to be a veterinarian because all young girls want to be a veterinarian. And I ended up realizing that my science courses were really hard. And I was like, I think I'm gonna do something else. And I found communication classes and I really, really enjoyed them. I've always been a big reader and really like to write, and I like to talk a lot. So then whenever I got into those courses, I kind of found my niche of that world. So in ag marketing, I really like to hear the stories. I really like to make those connections of, why a product might be important to someone, because it's, you may be marketing a product, but why is it important to that particular customer? Why is this needed? And what are the benefits? So really teasing out the story and honing in on that, I think was a lot of fun for me. And of course, I really like the science aspect of things. I have an animal science degree and I really like it. And I love the science background. And I love knowing that you can take science and tell that story, and that's got backing behind it. It's not just frivolous information. You've got scientists who are dedicated to the health of these animals. Well, how can we help you on your farm for that? Or how can we help whatever we are doing and make science make sense? I know some people get worried about science and everything, but there's a reason why we study everything the way we do. It's because it's ultimately, more, and it's going to help you make those decisions down the road for animal health or any other kind of decision.
Yeah, kind of falling back on research to build out any kind of strategy that you might use.
It does definitely help. You can always use that as a touch point too, in addition to the story of why this is important to that customer. But research is definitely something that you can use to, not scare anybody, but also make it make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love the fact that you dropped in the hard work that it takes to, growing up on a farm. Nothing replaces hard work. And I think that's a life lesson because that applies to every job, every career. Really it just is ingrained. It's a thread throughout rural America for sure.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And as I tell my young sons, I said, you are not going to go do whatever you want to do until the animals are taken care of, or until that is taken care of, because it promotes responsibility in these young kids so that they know that they are not the most important thing in the world. It's your responsibility to other animals or other duties that you have to take care of.
That's a great life lesson. I also like that you mentioned stories because as you and I were visiting before we got started, everybody has a story, right? And most people are interested in hearing about them. And so that's one of the things I've really enjoyed about our podcast is getting to know people and hearing their story and sharing it with our audience, or sometimes getting to know somebody better. There's been some cases where I thought I knew somebody and it's like, holy cow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And so that's really been a neat part of our initiative with the podcast. Well, tell us about the Missouri Conservation Heritage Foundation.
Yep. So again, I talked a little bit about it before, but certainly, our mission really is to, advance conservation and appreciation of our natural resources. Your streams, if you like to go kayaking, if you like to go fishing. Well, what's more important than water? Honestly, we all need it to drink. So, what's more important than conserving, what we dearly need and what our fish need, what our wildlife need, what our cattle need, what our hogs need, and what our crops need. There's nothing more important, than making really good water quality. And of course, fish and then wildlife. Most folks in rural America like to go hunting. So, whenever you've got a great balance between production agriculture and your wildlife habitat, there's nothing better than that, better than seeing that, because they can live together, and they can work together side by side. So conservation from that perspective is all of those aspects. So it's quality of life as well. Just like you may like rural America. Well, part of the reason why you like rural America is because of the wildlife that you have around you, the fishing opportunities, the opportunities, that somebody in urban areas may not have easy access to. So anyway, we really work from that perspective to, again, help with those different areas. But of course, like migratory birds too, we work on an international scale where we have to conserve their habitat in Central America, or else they won't come back to Missouri. If they don't have a wintering place that's good in Central America, they will not come back. So, thinking on a much larger scale too, from that perspective is kind of important. And then, of course, archery is a big thing that we do that we really support. It's called the National Archery in the School program. And we help with the state tournament. We help the Department of Conservation with the state tournament. And this past year, we had over 5,300 students participate in Branson. And we had almost 18,000 people there over 4 days. So it was a great, great event. And, really the sport of archery is inclusive for all. You don't have to be the strongest or the fastest person in order to excel at archery. And I really like that about this sport. It's very inclusive. And the program is for fourth graders up to 12th grade. And you can have a fourth grader shooting next to a 12th grader on the line. And it's really cool to see that dichotomy of, that older student is kind of like helping that younger student. And it teaches focus, it teaches discipline. So again, just a lot of life skills that we also try to work into. And again, getting outdoors, it's all held indoors, but we're hoping that grows them to want to do more things outside.
Absolutely. Well, you touched on many different things there. And what I'm hearing is that you're communicating with several different audiences, right? In terms of your communications program for the foundation. Talk a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So whenever I first started, there really didn't really have a communication plan. They didn't really have much of a communication plan from the perspective of, well, how are we going to reach these people? And branding, again, I didn't know who they were. So when I first came in, I'm like, well, we got to be consistent in our messaging. We got to be consistent in how we're talking about things and our branding and getting in front of people. So really, one of the first things is we started communicating electronically through e-newsletters. And we were able to, communicate with the folks who had purchased fishing and hunting permits. So we knew we had a captive audience already, but they weren't used to hearing from us. They didn't know who we were. So really being consistent with that messaging and offering things and sharing stories about what we support and, how our support has made an impact, that was really critical. In addition to, again, being consistent with traditional communication forms like letters. I still believe in mail. And then also creating an annual report. That's something that had not been created at this time. So, I helped create the annual report in order to, again, communicate these stories to folks that, didn't know much of what we were doing. And, social media was also another aspect of this as well. We don't have a huge social media following, but that's, you just got to start somewhere. And again, trying to be more consistent with that as well is important too. So, we're not on TikTok, unfortunately, but.
Well, maybe sometime.
I just do not have enough staff. We are very, very small staff. So we do the best that we can with what we've got. And sponsorships and partnerships are also a big component of our communication goals, because if we can sponsor something or if we can, partner with someone to get our name out there, again, that's another way that we're communicating with different audiences that may not have ever seen us before. A lot of different things.
Yeah, well, I think it's awesome. So are hunters and fishermen, do you find that your support mostly comes from those folks?
Well, so it's interesting. We have bigger campaigns going on. So we target different folks. But whenever we started implementing, and this was, I think it was right after COVID, we partnered with someone to do a raffle. And I will tell you that that is how we gained the majority of our new constituents, because we're not a member-based organization. We just rely on, donations, and we rely on partnerships and things like that. So when we did that particular partnership, we have grown, I guess, over the last 3 years, 12,000 constituents.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. And that's a big, very important part of kind of how we've gotten in front of people and got them to know us. I know that sounds funny, but again, they're contributing, and it's contributing to our cost. So finding those kind of niche partnerships or something like that can, I guess, elevate what you're doing was really beneficial for us.
Yeah, sounds like it. You said earlier, and I wanted to bring this back out, that you said that you did the best you can with what you've got. And I think that's an important marketing lesson for a lot of people. There are so many great tools that marketers have in their toolbox to choose from, right? But you can't do it all. And so our advice always to people is prioritize what you think will work the best or what you know will work the best, and then do a good job of it. And then as resources come to you and maybe your marketing department grows or your budget grows, then you can add things to it. But whatever you do, just do it well. And it sounds like you guys are.
And again, consistency, I think, is a big key that I think, and repetitiveness. I mean, not repeating the same thing all the time, but I'm saying your consistency in your messaging and consistency in your branding and how you talk about things is very important. Don't be afraid of reusing someone else's idea, if you will, and make it your own. As we talked in our agency a lot, no one has a new idea. You just take that idea and you make it your own, because it is a good idea. It's just, how can you make it work for your situation? And so, we try to do that too with some of our programs or some things that we do too. Well, how can we make this better? This is a really cool idea that this fundraiser is doing. Well, how can we do it to relate to our audience? You always want to relate to your audience and know your audience. And, I know after trial and error, I mean, you're never going to get it right potentially the first time, but through trial and error, I know some of the messaging that really worked through our e-newsletter, for example. And you can see the open rates, so you know what's working and what's not. So, I think don't be afraid of trying different things either. We've tried different things too, and it just didn't work. I mean, nobody was interested in it, and that's okay.
Sometimes they don't.
Yeah, and that's okay. You got to try, because you never know.
That's right. My favorite words, you never know. You mentioned partnering with different organizations. Why is that so integral to nonprofit success?
Because you can't do it alone. The conservation effort and that goes for most people. We're not made to do this stuff alone. Collaboration is extremely important, not only for me, it actually, if you will, energizes me. Collaboration energizes me. And whenever you can work with somebody else and hear their ideas and see how they're doing things, and then you guys can work together to make something better or help support someone doing something, I think that's just the best thing that you can do for a similar mission. And there's lots of folks that are passionate about conservation or passionate about, it doesn't matter, passionate about trees, passionate about rivers, passionate about deer, passionate about whatever it could be. So whenever you can work together, or kids, for example, archery, there's lots of people passionate about kids. So, and veterans, we also support veteran events too, to get veterans out there and disabled veterans. So, anytime you can connect and make a partnership to, again, get people outside and get off their devices, it's more powerful. And again, you extend your reach whenever you can partner with people. And you're going to get in front of people that you may not have ever thought you were going to get in front of with partnerships.
So I think this would be a great time for us to take a second for those people who may be listening that maybe have heard of you or haven't heard of you or don't know much about you, but are interested. Maybe they've sparked an idea that they would like to partner with you. How would they get a hold of you? How would they find out more about your organization?
Well, first, I'll give you the website, MOCHF.org, or I will give you my personal cell phone number, because I'm always available. That is my job. That is what I like. My personal cell phone number, which I use for the foundation, is 319-610-5215. And my email is tricia.burkhardt@mochf.org. But certainly I'm always open to ideas. I love coming up with fun things to do. For example, and I'm going to give this as an example because I think it's a great marketing tool. We have multiple partners, conservation partners, Bass Pro Shops and things like that. But we were trying to work with Academy Sports, trying to get in and see if they would sponsor some things with us. And ultimately, it was decided that they would sponsor a video, a hunting video in particular. So we filmed everything our own. We were not required to follow any of their guidelines. I mean, we had some guidelines, obviously, but like we could, come up with the idea, come up with the theme of the video, and then go out there and do the filming ourselves. And then they would approve it. But then we also had a checklist of items that was related to fall hunting. So then we created the video, and then they would always include an offer in that as well. And our last video, this is our third year doing this, and we almost have 3,000 views on YouTube. And for us, that's a lot because we hardly ever get much traction. And I should look at it. Maybe it's more now. We had a good hook. What are the 5 lies hunters tell themselves? So,
Oh, fun.
yeah. So it's just kind of a fun, different way to market, but also in return, we get a sponsorship in return. So we can allocate that to something outdoors related. So it worked out really well for both of us.
Yeah, that was a great idea. Great idea. Well, you mentioned earlier the capital campaign. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So a lot of times when you work for nonprofits, you may have a capital campaign for different projects. Usually it's building projects, but in this particular instance, we are building people and not building. So we have partnered with the Missouri Department of Conservation, obviously a big partner, and the University of Missouri to create the Johnny Morris Institute of Fisheries, Wetlands, and Aquatic Systems. And Johnny Morris is the founder of Bass Pro Shops, for those of you who may not know that. And he's a big supporter of conservation across the world, actually. So we were very honored to be able to partner with those 3 partners, plus get Johnny Morris's name on it. So very, very excited about that. And so this capital campaign for this institute really started years ago, like 6 years ago. And just within recently, we did a feasibility study about 2 years ago to determine, can we raise enough money for this institute? And our goal is $30 million, and the foundation would hold the endowment. And that just means that we, in perpetuity, would be able to fund the institute, meaning the funds would always be allocated to that particular institute. So that's kind of why some of the donors really wanted that and not have the money at MU. So the capital campaign itself was, again, feasibility study to make sure it even would work. Can we raise this money? And it was found that yes, we could. And our board of directors, actually 100% all have given to this. And then we just went out and started talking to people. We identified people that we thought would be, wanting to support it. And we just kept pounding the pavement. And so we are at 12 million right now of our $30 million campaign. And we've got 8 years to raise the rest of it, the 18. So hopefully we'll get there, but no, we will get there. And we established this institute already in March and got the naming of Johnny Morris in September. So we are moving along and we're hiring a director. So really the process of a capital campaign, the tough work comes in communicating. How do you communicate this? So we developed a case for support. Once that we knew we were good to go, we're a case for support, or basically a big document that says, well, this is what we are hoping to achieve. And then, of course, well, what are some of the deliverables? So you got to think through all of the things that your donors or audience may be interested in knowing about. Well, how is this potentially going to work? Well, we're going to have an advisory committee, that kind of stuff. So you got to think through all of those aspects from a communication perspective before you even start asking for money or asking for support or whatever that might be, or even partnerships. It doesn't always have to be money. It can be a partnership of some sort. So, and then again, you create your list of, well, who we're going to talk to, when are we going to talk to those people? You've got individual donors, you've got foundations, you've got businesses. So then you've got to think through your different levels of people you're going to communicate. Again, just like you do in any communication plan. Well, who's your audience? Who's the different levels of people? And then again, start asking. So, so yeah, that's it.
Well, congratulations. I think you're in a great place right now.
Yeah, very exciting.
So when you talk about the Institute building people, what does that really mean? How's that translate into real world?
Yep. So the institute will have four components. It'll be the faculty, because we have to hire the professors in order to teach the students. And again, this institute is at the University of Missouri in the College of Food, Agriculture, and Natural Resources, CAFNR, and within the School of Natural Resources. So those students that are in that School of Natural Resources, the institute will be in there, and there'll be four components. The faculty, again, to teach, to make sure that our undergraduates get the training they need, and workforce development. So career pathways is very important, because a lot of times what we're seeing is the agencies like the Department of Conservation, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and RCS, they need these people, but they may not know how to back up a trailer. They may not know how to drive a big truck. They may not know how to drive a boat. They may not know how to do some of the habitat work. So like hooking up implements. I mean, it's all the things that like I may have training in because I was raised on a farm, but somebody who's coming in from a different background may not. So training them with these kind of real world skills and getting them dirty out in the field, meaning you're going to be doing this field work as a biologist, or you're going to be doing this field work as, whatever it might be, engineer, or even a journalist, because we're going to try to partner with many different people on this particular institute so that we have that collaborative kind of learning. Not only will there be School of Natural Resources, but we're going to pull in people to help communicate this better. So then you've also got public policy, because when you're talking about water is going to be the number one issue. May not be necessarily here, but it certainly is out west. So what does that look like for farmers? What does that look like for recreational users of water? So there's all of those kind of aspects that how can we be proactive in developing policy so that it fits the needs of a large group of people, because we all have to work together. So let's collaborate a little bit. Maybe that's kind of important. And then also the other one is research, of course. Research is very important. I mentioned that before. You've got to have the science background in order to drive some of these decisions.
Sounds like a great initiative. I wish you all the best. It sounds like you're rocking and rolling right now. I've got to ask, how'd you get Johnny Morris to be a part of this?
Lots of discussions. And, we work very closely with the director of MDC, Department of Conservation. We've got lots of different connections. Again, making those connections, those relationships is extremely critical to really anything that you do, no matter what your business is. Relationships are critical. So really developing those relationships and then making sure that we are in a good spot to make the ask, if you will. So, lots of moving parts there, but certainly the relationship is important.
And then certainly it comes down to this is his passion, right? So
yes, fish is his passion.
Yes, that's right. Well, and people support things that they're interested in, right? So
yes,
I think that makes sense. So as you're going forward, what kind of challenges have you either already overcome or face as you try to accomplish this task?
For me personally, the biggest challenge is having enough time to do it all.
I understand.
So, and we're working through that from a perspective of trying to get more people hired. So, your capacity, and I'm sure a lot of people deal with this, is making sure that you have enough time to focus on what you need to focus on. That may mean hiring more people or reallocating budget. Just managing all of that, I think, can be a challenge at times, on a serious matter that you don't want to overextend yourself. You don't want to overextend your staff. I think that's one of the biggest challenges, and just getting to the right people who make the decision. So identifying who that decision maker is and developing that relationship with that decision maker.
I assume that that's kind of an important part of your job, just day in, day out. How do you spend your time?
I do a lot of talking. I talk to a lot of people. I have a lot of meetings. I really enjoy development, meaning I really enjoy identifying opportunities and seeing how we can help. And, a lot of times we'll serve as a fiscal agent for a project, meaning we will pay the bills and we'd be the third person. And, we also hold a conservation bank for bats. We're the first conservation bank in the nation that's protecting bats. So that's kind of cool. And that's a partnership with Burns and McDonnell, so we're finding ways to get in there. And again, a lot of partnership building, talking to people. I do a lot of admin work too. I mean, I answer to my board of directors and I work a lot on budgets. I look at our money all the time. I try to make sure that our staff is appropriately utilizing their time, focusing appropriately on what needs to happen next. And so, admin work for sure, but certainly a lot of that development building is really what I enjoy. So that's the majority of what I do. And again, answering to my board, we have board meetings every quarter.
Well, it sounds like you're very well prepared for what you do, and it's hard to do everything that you want to do, but I can hear the passion in your voice for what it is that you're working on. And so I have to feel like it's almost a labor of love every day that you go to work to get to do the things that you do. Would that be fair characterization?
It is very fair. I like I said, I get pretty energized by the different collaborations and the different projects that are going on, because I know the impact it will have. Like with the Institute, I know we're impacting kids, and that's going to, help us in the long run for our conservation efforts, wildlife, our water, fish. So again, if you like to fish, if you like to drink water, if you like to go hunting, that's hopefully going to help all of that. Because again, we all need clean water and wetlands. I mean, if you like to go duck hunting, there's all of those aspects that this touches that people may not realize. So yeah, the passion of that is, again, stems from being raised on a farm, being in rural America. Whenever you can see firsthand this kind of stuff and live it, that passion does kind of spill out into a lot of different areas.
Yeah, it does. You made a great point there. I think there's probably a lot of people that take all of this for granted and don't realize that all these things don't just happen naturally. There's a lot of hard work and effort and resources that go into preserving our state and conserving our resources and, enhancing this outdoor quality of life that we enjoy here. It doesn't just happen, right?
No, not at all. And I kind of mentioned this before, farmers are such an important part of our culture in Missouri as well, so working with them, working production, agriculture, but also the habitat that we need. 93% of the state is owned by private landowners, so they can make an impact, every day. Even urban people can make an impact, but those rural areas can make an impact. You can plant pollinator plots and you can make an impact. I know that sounds kind of silly, you may think, but it really does make an impact. So even little areas can make a huge impact. So a little goes a long way, I guess, sometimes.
Small things can have big impact.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have really enjoyed visiting with you today, Tricia, and hearing more about the foundation and what you're trying to do. And I wish you all the best of luck as you work towards, building people by building the Institute. What else would you like to share with our audience today that you think they might find interesting or important or maybe even inspiring?
A parting, I suppose, message would be find joy when you can. Don't take for granted the smell of the leaves in the fall. Don't take for granted that breeze that hits you in the spring. Really enjoy those things that energize you. Go seek them out, spend time outdoors, spend time in nature. It's critically important for our mental health to be able to enjoy those things, even if it is only for 10 minutes. I think part of why I really enjoy conservation is because that means that I know that's going to be there for the next generation. And I think that's important to never take for granted, because at some point in time in the history, they weren't able to go turkey hunting. They weren't able to go deer hunting. There was nothing around. So don't take the resources for granted because they may not be here, and we don't want that to happen. It's, our forests are important, our fish are important, our water is important, wildlife is important. So I guess, yeah, that's my parting message.
Very well said. Tricia, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Folks, thanks for listening to Outdrive. I hope you've enjoyed our visit today with Tricia Burkhardt, Executive Director of the Missouri Conservation Heritage Foundation. Come back again next week, and I'll take you down the roads of rural America, where it's heaven on earth.
Thanks for taking a ride with us on Outdrive. This episode is complete, so head on over to ecalus.com for more insight you can apply to help drive your business growth. And be sure to sign up for our free monthly e-letter, Outthink, for even more helpful content about marketing to rural America. Have a great day and keep on driving.